Okay, good evening, everybody. Good to be back here again. Hope we've all had a good day. So, we met yesterday, and we started talking about, report design and Power BI, how we can build actionable reports, interactive reports with good, user experience while they're using the report and all of those good things. So we started yesterday, right? And so today we are going to be continuing. So for anyone that's just joining us today, my name is Bolaji Olatunde. I'm a BI analyst. I do things that work with Power BI, right? And you can, if you want to connect with me, connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and all of those good stuff. Anyway, so last yesterday, right, we went through a couple of things around dashboard design, right? And we went through a few things that you should consider when you're building your dashboard. Today, we are going to be looking at the how-tos in Power BI. So we've talked about a lot of theory yesterday. We've talked about a lot of, do this, do that, consider this, consider that. Let's put some of those things into practice and see what we can build in Power BI within the next 1 to 2 hours, right? And so today is going to be about working with Power BI and the hands-on session, and then we'll have a Q&A after. So just to recap what we did last week, we discussed what we mean by dashboard, and we said, okay, it's bringing together visualizations that have, that contribute to answering a particular business question or helping businesses go through a decision-making process, right? And we talked about the design phases, the phases in the report design process. We talked about the what to show, we talked about the how to show. And we said, what to show is where you decide, oh, what am I going to put in my report, right? What do I need to present in order to meet this report objective? And the how to show is, what tools and techniques do I have at my disposal with my tool, to present this data in a way that is going to meet that business or that reporting objective. And so we also talked about, how the report design is not a sequential process. It's an iterative process that you go through all the steps over and over and over again so you find something that really, really meets your reporting needs, right? And then for our what to show stage, we said, it comprises of two phases. The phase where you research and define what it is that's going to be the scope of the project. And you had talked about a couple of questions we could go through, and all of those good things, right? And then we look at the how to show phase, which is where we said, we have 5 things that you can consider when you're deciding how to prepare your reports. First of all, we recommended, starting up with a wireframe to decide the layouts and the organization of, of components in your reports. Then once you've decided how you want to arrange things, you can start creating a draft, add a couple of design elements, and then test it with your report consumers, right? So we talked about a couple of things to consider when looking at your wireframing and deciding your dashboard layout. And I showed us a few examples of where, we could take a report that I had done before and look at some of the, sketches and layout design that went through before actually doing and producing the final reports, right? And then we went through the create phase where we talk about, if you're going to create a report, what are some things that, if you're going to start creating a report and you're going to start creating visualizations, what are some things that you should take into consideration? What are some questions that your visuals should be able to answer to ensure that those visuals are effective, right, in communicating the information? And we talked about a couple of things to consider: using the right charts, adding context, not sticking to the software default, but still being careful with that. And then we also talk about design, right? How do you add design element? And we talked about using colors and how should we use colors, using very few colors, using light colors, being very purposeful and strategic about the colors that we're going to use. And I gave us a few resources. And we spoke about icons, right? How you should make your icons consistent, simple, and add to what you already have in your report, but not replace what you have in your report. And then we also spoke about fonts, being consistency in your type of font, and all of those good things. And then, after you've created your report, now you test it, give your users, let them give you feedback, and you improve on the report. Now we want to go into the hands-on session where we are going to open up Power BI or whatever it is and start to walk through a a report creation or a report design process, right? And for the purpose of that, I've just tried to, because there's only so much we can do in 2 hours, right? And so what I'm just going to try to do is we're going to um determine, or let's say work with a fictitious use case, right? And then just try to think through some of those things that would be required to meet the objective of the report. Now, I would really like if the session can be engaging such that if I'm asking questions, just drop your responses in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat, closely. So, because I want this to be as collaborative as it can be, right? Even though, you don't have the opportunity to just raise up your hand and speak. Well, try to drop messages in the chat, drop your suggestions, drop your questions as we proceed. So our hands-on session, we are just going to be working with this very brief uh, reporting scenario, right? We're going to be working with this very brief reporting scenario. So in this scenario, I've just said, okay, let's say you're a data analyst in an organization, and the head of sales has asked the BI and analytics team to prepare a Power BI report that shows the financial performance of the business, and the head of sales would want to be able to see this report at the end of every month, understand the financial state of the business, right, during that month, identify growth opportunities and pain points, and help the business plan for the next period. And so the BI and analytics team lead has assigned this task to you, and you have to create the report that's going to be demoed at the next team meeting before it's presented to the head of sales. You've been given a Power BI file that contains historical data from the business database, and then you've been asked to prepare this report. So I want us to just digest this brief, right? And let's try to coin a focus for our report, from this brief. So and I'll give us a few seconds to read it again, digest it, and see what it is that this small reporting brief is asking us to do, right? So yeah, so let's just look at it again. So it says you are data analyst, right? And the head of sales has asked them to prepare a Power BI report that shows the financial performance of the business, right? So that's like the central theme or the central focus of the report. We want to see the financial performance of the business. And who has asked us to prepare it? The head of sales. So when you look on, if the head of sales asks you to prepare something that relates to financial performance, I think it makes sense to say that the kind of financial performance that the head of sales is going to want is going to be financial performance that relates to sales. And so the head of sales wants to be able to see this report at the end of every month. So it's not a report that he wants to, go in every morning and log in and see. It's a report that is interested to see at the end of every month. And once he sees that report at the end of every month, he wants to do what? Understand the financial state of the business during that month, identify growth opportunities and pain points, and help the business plan for the next period. Right? So we are creating a report for the head of sales interested in financial performance, and he wants to see this report at the end of every month. And when he sees that report at the end of every month, he wants to be able to, okay, say, this is the financial state of the business during this month. These are the growth opportunities based on what we're looking at. These are some pain points that we need to improve on. And then picking this up, let's plan for the next period, right? So let's use that as as our focus. for the report. Now I'm going to switch over to my mouse. So I'm going to switch over to Power BI, right? Yeah. So I'm going to switch over to Power BI and show us a bit of what the report looks, or what the data we are working with looks like. Right? Shows a bit of what the data looks like. Okay. So we're going to be working with a very familiar database, though we only have 2 hours, so there's not so much time to go through something very intriguing or something like that. So we are working with a very familiar database, right? This is the Contoso database, and it's just basically simulating a business that is into the sales of different products, right, across different product lines. And the data we've been provided with has a sales table. We have some products, we have the customers who bought it, we have when they bought it, and we have what store it is that the customers made that purchase from, what store that sales was made. And so, given this as the context of the data that we have, I want us to start to think about some questions that we can answer, or some, or what's the possible reporting focus that we can use, that we can use to guide us while we create this report. And so I like us to start to drop some messages, some suggestions in the chat box, right? I'll put up the description again, the project brief again, and I'd like us to just drop some suggestions as to what we think, it's a direction that we can start to think about this report. Okay, so I'll be monitoring the chat and I'll be waiting for your responses, and we'll just put something together as a starting guide of where we want to be headed with this report. Okay, so using the switch. So okay, so let's see. Yeah. Okay, so I'm seeing a couple of suggestions in the chat, and Oluwatimi says, "Oh, what's the best selling and the least selling product?" Okay. Patient says, "What product has generated the highest number of sales? What's the highest sales by customer?" Says, "Can I show the data model again?" Okay, maybe I'll drop an image of the data model in the chat. That will help. Okay, Taiwo says, "We may look at best selling product, highest selling store, details of the customer, which store is generating the highest sales to the business." These are very, very interesting questions. And I like that, Okay, I'm just going to drop an image of the model in the chat. So if you needed to to follow along, you can follow along. Okay. So that's an image of the model in the chat box, right? Needed to have a look, a feel of what's okay. So I'll start picking up some of the things that we've done. So we said we're looking at, okay, what is the best and least selling products, right? That's one suggestion I've seen. Someone also said what product generated the highest number of sales, which is still similar to that question. Because the highest selling product also says, what is the highest selling store, right? Okay. It's another question. Says another person says details of the customer. Okay. So which store is generating the highest sales to the business? What's the best selling product in terms of count and value? Which country has the highest sales? Okay. So these are a couple of questions that we've suggested, and everything so far has centered around was identifying where the top products are, the top customers are, top stores are, and the highest sales are, which are very good questions, right? But I want us to just go back to what's the requirements is. It says we show financial performance. Let's start by defining what are we going to define as financial performance, right? What are we going to define as financial performance? So we can start saying, okay, we want to define financial performance in using what metrics. So far we've said sales, which is good. Other financial performance metrics, could have what? We could have profit, profit margin, right? We could have what else? Cost as a measure of financial performance, and a couple of other things. So we start to define our financial performance metrics. That's one. And then based on what we've given, we've also talked about what dimensions we want to look at it. So we've said dimension, we've talked about product and store, right? Is the dimensions we want to look at it based on, and then customer as well. Those are the dimensions we want to look at the report. Now, also notice from the requirements, we have been told that this report, he wants to, the head of sales wants to see the report at the end of every month. So which means that what our report should be restricted to one monthly view, right? So let's go back again and say, okay, reporting range is going to be what? 1 month, or you can call it current month. That's going to be the reporting range, right? And then also, what other information do we have there? During that month, we want to know what the business performance is. I want to be able to identify growth opportunities. So for like these growth opportunities could represent what countries can we expand to, what product lines can we improve on, and then pain points can be what products are not selling, what stores are not selling, right? So some of the suggestions we've given so far seem to tie into kind of like a focus that we can start with, right? So we're going to be looking at financial performance across sales, profit margin, costs, right? And in terms of identifying that growth and pain points, opportunities, we want to look at it from a product perspective, the store perspective, and from customer, right? Customer location. Okay. And since the report is going to be viewed at the end of every month, we know that the date range, right, for our report is going to be for a given month. Which means whatever it is that we're going to create is going to be for that given month. Okay. So using this as a kind of focus, right, you can take a screenshot, you can, have it somewhere so that you can easily refer to it as we proceed, right? So let me also just try to drop another image that's in the chat. Okay, now, okay, this is what what we've suggested so far. Okay, so let's now move to the next phase. So this is kind of like a very brief research and define phase where we are trying to see, okay, what's the focus that we can start with, right? What's the focus that we can start with to start exploring our data and everything. And so if we switch over to Power BI, right? Switch over to Power BI, we can start to explore some of those dimensions that we've talked about. So in the data sets right now, I have a few years of data, right? I'm going to just create something and say, okay, let's look at here and let's look at transactions, right? So I have about 10 years worth of data from 2010 to 2020 in this model. Well, let's assume that the current year we are in is 2019, right? And then we are in what month? Not this is August, right? So let's assume we're in the month of August for 2019, right? And so we can start placing a filter on our report as a whole, right? To say, okay, the entire range that we are going to use, for this report is going to be where the year is 2019, right? So everything we're going to create, we're going to be looking at it in 2019. And also, let's look at one single month, which is going to be August, right? So let's look at the month of August. Okay, so everything we're going to be doing now is going to be in 2019 for the month of August. Awesome. Now let's start to explore some of those things that we saw. So we talked about looking at the financial performance by product, looking at the financial performance by customer and by store. So let's just look at it and see, oh, what do we have in the data, right? So if I just so I've just created a few measures that we can use to to get a feel of what it is. So if I bring in the product category, and let's say I bring in my sales total revenue, okay, I can see that, okay, during this period, we've had a total of 2 million. This is the highest selling category, right? Okay, maybe I can look at the profits and say, okay, this is the highest selling category. It's computers, cell phones. If I look at profits, still seems to be, the same thing. Okay, not bad. Let's look at something else. Just going to duplicate this. Okay, so we've looked at products. Let's look at store and maybe store name, for example. And then you can see all of the stores. We have an online store, we have a store in this location, that location. Maybe we just want to group it by maybe where the store is located, which is the store country. And we can see, okay, stores in the United States have a revenue of about 383,000. This has a 209,000. We're just getting to see, okay, how much data are we working with? Do those fields that we're thinking of, do they exist in the data and all of those things, right? So the data is there, we're not really going for a specific analysis, but we're just preparing a report that someone is going to come and look at, right? And so once we've confirmed that all of the columns that we need from our brainstorming session of the questions that we want to ask, we confirmed all of it is there, we can go to that phase of wireframing, or that phase of starting to think about how do we want to organize, the information in our report. So let me just share my entire screen so that it's easy to just switch between pages. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to stop the slideshow here. And I'm just going to use PowerPoint for the sake of our wireframing, right? For the sake, we're just going to use PowerPoint. So we want to create the reports, and we want to think of how do we want to organize things. So if you remember from some of the things we talked about last week, we said it's advisable to go from general to more detailed information and keeping, the very important things at the top and try to walk down and break things down as we go further in the report. And so we can start off by saying, okay, let's just use maybe shapes to design how it is that we want things to be. So I'm just going to have no fill here. Let's say white fill. Just use something like this. Okay. So don't worry about whether it's fine or not. That's not the point. So we can say, okay, our reports, we want our reports to look like this. At the top, we want to have, our report title, right? Okay, let's change text here. So at the top, we want to have our report title, right? And once we have our report title, at the bottom, at the next section, we want to have some KPIs, right? Let's say we want to have some KPIs, maybe KPIs that, in this case, tie towards financial performance, right? And remember, we identified a couple of them. It says sales. So maybe here, I want to have my sales, right? And then I want to have another KPI, maybe my, sorry, my cost. Then another KPI, my profit. And what other KPIs again do we have as it relates to sales? Maybe have a profit margin, right? And maybe we also think of something that relates to sales, which is okay, how many orders, right? So let's say orders. Okay, so I just shrink this down a bit. So we have everything on one page. Okay. So yeah, so we're starting with our report title. Then we want to look at a couple of KPIs, our sales, our cost, our profits, profit margin, and how many orders actually generated this. Or you can look at the story from the other way and say, okay, we want the first thing that we show the head of sales is, hey, this is how many orders we took up in the current month. And then from these orders, we generated so amount of sales. It cost us this to generate this amount of sales, and that led us to a profit of this. And that profit, when compared to the overall sales performance, it's about X% of the sales. That could be one way. So if that's one way we're looking at it, we can say, okay, let's bring our sales to the front, and let's have these ones, after that. So we start by giving information, orders, sales, cost, and we go through like that. So now, once we've shown all of those, big KPIs, we now want to start going into details, right? And we said, okay, what are some of the things we can explore? What's the best selling? What's the least selling? What's the highest selling store? The best selling product, least selling product, high selling store, and least performing store. So let's say the first thing we want to show is a breakdown of the sales, for example, right, by product. And so I want to have another chart here that says sales by product. And so maybe that's going to be something that's going to take up as much space as this. And I say, okay, it's going to be sales by product. Sales by product. What kind of chart can I use in this diagram? I'm going to show you sales by product. I can say, okay, I'm going to show, let's say, I don't know, a bar chart, right? Bar chart, sales by product. Now, because we can have a lot of products, I can say, oh, maybe I shouldn't show all of the products. I just say sales by product, or maybe top 10, right? So this is going to be my sales by product chart for the top 10 products. Okay. Then what other thing can I break down? We talked about after looking by products, we want to look at it by store, and we can have sales by store. Again, maybe using the bar chart, and then maybe if you have a lot of stores, we just want to show the top 10 or the top 5 performing stores, the top 10 performing products or product categories, depending as what we find out when we go into the data. So what other ways can we break this down by again? So we could also say, okay, if we are showing the sales by products and show the top 10, wouldn't it be nice to also add further information to say, hey, these guys raised X amount of what's it called? X amount of sales in X amount of sales, yeah, over the period, but this was the profit. So I may not just show sales, I may show sales and profit, for example. And then I say, okay, what other things can we look at? So we look at profit, we look at products, we look at store. We can also look at region where it's coming from, right? And say, okay, sales or profits by customer location. Because again, we want to identify growth opportunities. We can identify growth opportunities, from where it's located, from what is being sold, can we expand to? So we can look at sales or profit like to see, okay, this is where those sales are coming from, right? And then in terms of growth opportunities and pain points, again, what other things can we look at? Someone said sales by gender and age range. Now, the thing about the sales by gender and age range is like it's a very, very specific metric, right? So it may be that, okay, once we start out looking at the customer location view, we now want to go and say, okay, from all the guys that we're getting from this location, right? From what the sales we're getting from this location, what's the demography of those that are actually buying from us, right? So the first high level introduction could be customer location, and then we can ask, oh, okay, then you can now drill through to customer demography, right? BG, gender, age, etc. Right? So we first start off by saying, what's the sales or what's the profit by customer location, and then we show that maybe on the bar chart, and then we give them the opportunity to drill through to details to say, okay, look at the customer demography that makes up the high sales in this location. So that's one. What other thing again did we suggest? So we talked about details of customer. So we said not put it on this page because it's an intro page. We've talked about what else again? Highest selling store. Yes, we've shown the highest selling store. What other things could we look at? What other things could we look at? From your sales perspective, what other things could we look at? I mean, this is this is how it gets. Okay, what if we show over time, right? Hours. Okay, I have a suggestion. Someone says sales revenue by the days of the week. Okay, so it could be that within the months that we are considering, there could have been some variety of frequency of purchase, maybe in certain periods of the week for this month because of whatever it is. Say we are looking at since it's only 1 month, right? Since it's only 1 month of data, we are restricted to now looking at things at the day level or at the week level or at the day of week level, right? So we can look at that as well and say, okay, maybe we also want to look at sales and profits, over time. And in this case, our time might be days, right? And for that, we want to use a line chart. Okay. So again, we are still just thinking about what it is that we want to show. All of these are here, Right, all of these are here. Okay, so sales by profit over time, it says day of month, just and day of week, right? So it could also be that, oh, why we're showing it over time, we're showing it over time, we want to also show the breakdown, sales of profits by day of week. And in this case, we'll probably be using maybe a column chart, for example. Okay. So we are just, trying to bring ideas together. What else could we look at? Maybe we now provide a maybe a detailed, assuming we have something around sales rep, it would probably be interesting to look at sales rep performance and stuff like that. Okay, Tayo says, can we also look at costs, those things that make up the highest cost, for the month? True. We could also look at things that make up the highest cost for the month. So we're just starting to wireframe. Then we now start questioning what it is that we've done. So if we're going to say, okay, this is our reporting title, our reporting title is going to have what? Maybe financial performance for what? For the month. So we can say, okay, this is going to be financial performance for the month of August 2023. We're going to have our metrics. So when we show a particular metric, remember those three questions. What does it mean? Is it very clear what it means? Oh, okay, it's going to be orders. Fine. Orders is clear. So why is it important for you to show me orders? Oh, the orders that we get are going to be above what it is that we set for that month. So while showing our orders, we want to also show maybe versus previous month. The previous month, to give context to the performance. Or we also want to show versus previous year. So that is same time previous year, what was the performance? And then we also want to replicate that in this measure, in this measure, in this measure, and that measure. I just started to think about this. And you can look at what we have here. Okay, maybe we're going to restructure it and start from profit over time, then this, then that, then this, then that. But we have at least something to work with, as a start. So we've done that. We have this. Next thing now is to go to Power BI and start creating some things. At least let's see what it is we can do. Okay, yeah. So now in Power BI, we can start to think of what it is that we want to do. So let's say we want to start. So if we're going to have our title, I'm going to say maybe we're going to use a text box for that. And our title is going to be here. It's going to be our report title. Or we can just start naming, okay, financial performance report for month of August. And then we decide on the font size. Maybe we want to make it size 18, bold, transfer performance. Okay. So let's say size 18 or size 20, just to stand out as the performance. For the month of August 2023. Okay, that's our reporting title. And then if we go back there, look at our metric, we said orders, sales, cost, profit, and profit margin. So I've created those measures, just going to bring in, let's say using a card visual. So I'm using the new card visual, and I bring in orders. What else do we have here? We have sales, cost, profit. So here is called revenue, cost, profit, and our profit margin, right? Okay, so this is our KPIs, and then we're going to start with the other one. So we said sales or profit by product. So we bring in our chart, bar charts, let's say we look at sales. I just rename this as sales so that we're on the same page. Sales. Let's start with the highest level in our product, which is our product category. So we are looking at sales by product category, right? What else did we have there? We have sales by store. So I'm going to duplicate this. Sales by store. What else do we have? We said sales by customer location. So maybe we want to use a map here. For example, and say, okay, what's our customer location? That's in the customer table. Take our category out. Let's say we use just country and we use a map. We may not necessarily need a map, but give me the map. Let's say not that one. Okay, map settings and just set the map. So okay, I can't set it to world. All right. Yeah, let's just use. Okay, let's keep it as this now, right? Let's keep it as this. Oh, okay. My voice is going faster than the action. Okay, I'll try to be slower. Okay, so we have total sales by country, by product category. Here we said, okay, no, here is what product category, bar chart. Let's say bar chart now. Okay, store. So we're gonna make the store. It's a store name, right? Then that's country. Name said over time. So we have a line chart showing us our sales over time. Then we have something else said by day of week. Right? Okay. So this is just a very rough draft of what it is that we are thinking of, right? So we have an outline of what we might be going for. Let's now start to add those design elements. I think that's the part that is a bit hard, right, to get right. So let's decide on, okay, what colors are we going to use for our background as our dominant colors? What font sizes are we going to keep, right, consistent across all of our reports and all of those good things. So now for the color, since we are doing a sales report, we can choose any dominant color. Let's say we want to stick to the theme of what's it called? The theme of this Power BI session, right? Which is this yellow or orange color here. So let me get the hex code. This, right? This is the hex code. I think I have it here. Yeah. Let me get the hex code for that. And so once you've chosen your color, what I like to do in Power BI is to set up my theme file, right? In Power BI to set up a theme to fit what it is that I want, right? So if I go over to the View tab, yes, under Themes, you have the option to customize current theme. So you have customized current theme here. So Home, View, Customize current theme, right? So you click on Customize current theme, and the first option you have is name and colors. So I can say, okay, I want my primary color to be that one I put in there. And then maybe I want to now add some complementary colors, maybe something around a dark gray, for example, and just two colors. Or I find another complementary color to the orange that's going to serve as my dominant color, and I change all of those things here so that everything I'm creating is just going to follow, that color scheme. Okay, so I have other options to change, the font colors of my elements, first level, second level. The other thing I used to do is, okay, I go to my text and I set what default font sizes should be. So what font family do I want to use? I want to use Seagull UI, which is the default. That's fine. What's my default font size? Or maybe I want to use a default font size of 11, right, as a primary font size. Then for my report titles, right, what font size family do I want to use? I still want to keep it as Seagull UI, right? Because they are titles, I want to make them maybe size 13. Cards and KPIs, I want to keep them in this one because it's an appropriate font for numbers. I want the default size to be maybe 35, right? Tab headers is this way you have page one stuff. We can leave tab headers. I go to my visuals. What do I want the background of my visuals to be? How do I want the borders to be set? How do I want the headers and the tooltips? Right. So you can basically set a very few things, but some things that can speed up that design development stage. So I hit apply, and it has applied that my dominant color to it. So I've chosen my color. I've chosen some little changes in my font. You notice that these ones now have come down, it becomes smaller. Next thing I would like to do is to, I'll talk about tooltips, yes. Next thing I would like to do is to set, my background. So I want to just go for a light background. So now I don't have anything selected. So I will select just the report canvas. Nothing is selected. Go to my background, canvas background, color. Maybe I'll just choose a very light gray, and I reduce the transparency, right? Maybe to like 60%. So it's not taking all of the attention, but it's there, right? Okay. So now I can now start to set things, right? So it's always nice to have maybe some form of margin around your reports, right? So like your visuals are not touching the exact edge, right? You can just keep some margins around the report to make things nice and tidy. So what margin size do I want to go for? Let's say I want to go for a margin size of, let's say, 8 pixels around my report, right? So if I'm going for a margin size of 8 pixels, it means that this visual should start, 8 pixels below the end there and 8 pixels below here. So a very good way to format things when you want it to be lined up very, very, very tight is select the visual, go to the properties pane. Now in the properties pane, you have the options to, at a pixel level, determine the size of your visual, as well as the, the position of your visual. So for the size now, let's say we're still keeping the size the way it is, but on the horizontal, we want it to start in 8 pixels. And for the vertical, we want it to start at 8 pixels, right? So you see now we have 8 pixels here, 8 pixels there. And let's say for the height of our report title, we want to keep it at maybe 70 or 60. I think 60 is fine. Keep it at 60. And for the length, right? We can say, okay, take it to the end and then reduce it by 8. Right, so we know we have 8 pixels up, 8 pixels down, and that. Next, we have our card visual, right? So our card visual is going to line up here, but we also want it to be 8 pixels below. So once now it's aligned here to that, I can stretch it out, to align to this, and then go to my format pane, general, properties, position, and in the vertical, because this is vertical, this is horizontal, right? Vertical, horizontal. So go to the position, right? And then on the horizontal, it's at 0, but I want it to be 8. But in the vertical, I want it to be 8 points below where it currently is. So if I add 8 to 68, right, that's about maybe 70, 76, right? So now that one is also 8 pixels below. So I can come and do the same thing here, right? I've aligned it to wherever my card visual ended. And then I say, okay, come here, properties, position, and drop it 8 pixels. So adding 8 to this, maybe that's 213. And then for this as well, I can say, okay, align, drop it 8 pixels to that 458. Then if I stretch this down, I can take off 8 pixels from the height, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 pixels around everywhere in my report. I can now start to align the rest of my report. Say here, this is what now. So this, if I just, you have Power BI snaps to grid by default. So I can say, okay, this is left aligned. I drop it to the edge of this one. And then I come here, general properties, position, set the horizontal to 8 more pixels, which could be from 401 becomes 409. That's another 8 pixels there. Then I can do the same thing here, push it, 8 pixels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make it aligned to that. Drop this one also, and then maybe make it the same height as the existing visual there, and then snap this here, make that there, and just work with the whole snapping of things and keeping everything aligned. So at least for now, we've not done much, but everything is designed to a grid system, right? Nothing fancy done so far. We just kept everything grid. So this is one grid, this is another grid, it's another grid, another grid, is another grid, right? Nothing too distant. So we've started, right? We have this. Now we want to start, looking at each visual and designing it to meet what it is that we want, ripping out all of those things that are not important, and getting to what it is that we actually want. So we can start with our card visual, right? Maybe we want to format the card visual differently. I've selected the card visual now, and I go to the formatting options. In my cards, I can, so this stage takes some familiarity because you need to have worked with you need to continue to work with Power BI so you know where certain options are, what certain things do, and all of those, right? So because I've worked with it, I'm able to know if I click here, I'm going to find this here. If I click there, I'm going to find this here. But almost every element in this you can, edit. So say I want to take off the borders that I have here, right? If I go to, I think it's in layout, or is it cards? Yes, so cards. I can take off the borders and then maybe add an accent bar to the left, make the color that my dominant color, right? Increase the width a bit, and yeah, I think that's maybe too much. Let's say 4 pixels, 4 pixels thick. And I can also change my padding maybe to make it wide so that things are a bit not too close to that, maybe normal. All of these are just design settings, right? So let's say we did that. That's one. So we have, okay, total cost, we're looking at our values. And okay, these card labels here are not looking too clear. So I can select it, come back here, go to call out values, labels, and I can set my labels to, maybe I want it to be size 14. I want to make it maybe semi-bold, right? But maybe I don't want to make it dark so that it doesn't draw attention to itself, but it's still very clear. So I'm not making it an exact black, just doing something like that. Okay, so that's like the card visual. Then we look at our total sales by product category. So let's look at the titles, right? What font size for the title are we using? Does the title stand out in all of those things? And try to rip out things that would not contribute to showing anything. So total sales by category, is it clear what this chart means? No, because we're not sure what category we're looking at. So we're going to go to format visuals, we're going to go to title and say, okay, this is total sales by product category, right? And then we want to make it clear that it's an header. So maybe we want to set for the title font size to maybe 16. Okay, that seems too big. Let's say 14, right? And we'll make it bold. And we just de-emphasize it a bit, maybe this, right? It's dark, but it's not completely dark. Okay. And then what else can we take off here? So the product category names are a bit too small. Let's come to my visual, my y-axis, maybe I make them this size. Now you might face this issue where you're seeing this what's it called, this caution icon here, where Power BI is telling you, oh, the visual is responsive, you need to return the axis font to its original size. And what's basically asking is that for the font settings you've chosen, I want you to make the parts bigger before I can show you everything. Now you see that it's gone now. Once I made it bigger, I don't have those portions, but you may not have the luxury of that. So let me undo the last action. The way to get rid of that is select the visual, go to general, properties, and go to advanced options, and you turn off responsive. So the moment you turn off responsive, right, whatever font sizing settings you put in there, it's always going to work fine. So now I can now come back and continue my editing. So I want okay. So I'm getting some feedback that it's taking some time for my screen to come up. Please, if that's the case, kindly
Yeah,
just drop a message.
actually, it what's it called? It's from the person end. It's for lagging for some seconds, I think, sometimes ago, and everything go back to normal. So it's from the person.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for
Mhm.
that. Okay. So now we can continue, with the formatting. I can say, okay, I want to keep my Y values, maybe font size 9 is small, let's say font size 10 or 11, right? And then I want to turn off the y-axis titles because it's clear what the title means. So I turn that off. And also on the x-axis, I don't need total sales because it's already in the title. To come to that, x-axis, turn off titles. And let's say I also want to turn off the axis and instead use data labels. So all of these decisions that I'm making, that I'm doing this, I'm doing that, you need to have gone through, understand how visualizations, what are the best practices, how to make your visuals, right? So you properly make, some of these decisions. Now, we also said that we did not want to show all of the product categories, right? We wanted to show a few, maybe the top 10 or the top 5. So in this case, where we just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe we want to just show the top 5 um, product categories. So I come over to filter and I can say, okay, under the category tab, I can switch this to top in and say, show me the top 5 items by what value. I drag in my total sales and apply it. Then show me my top 5 items. Now that this is not just all items, it means that I need to go back and edit my title, right? And say, okay, this is no longer showing me total sales by product, is what? Top 5 product category by sales, for example. The top 5 product categories by sales, right? Okay, so we have that. So what other changes can we make here to make this report clear? It's not the text on the category labels is not clear. So I can come over here and increase the width here. So where do you increase the width? You select the visual and you come to your y-axis, come to values. You have an option here called max area width. So if you just expand that, and stretch it out till you are okay with what it is that you have, so that you're showing enough, right? Then you can leave it at that. So once you've done one visual, it's a bit easy to replicate some of those designs that you've done or some of those editing that you've done on the other visuals. So you select the visual, come over to home and say format painter, right? So home, format painter here, there's the option. So you select it. And if you first selected the visual you want to copy formatting from, and then you go to the other one and you just apply it, right? So I'm going to come here again, format painter, apply it on this as well. So most of the formatting that I've done, has just applied to this. Now, as we are looking at the report we are creating, we also see that, oh, this one also doesn't have the right name. Here it's showing me total sales by name, but what's name? So this is supposed to be what total sales by store. So go over there, change the name, total sales by store, and I have the store there. Now, as it relates to the whole what's it called? The business reporting focus that we're trying to go for, we see that online store is has a very high number here because you can purchase from anywhere online, right? So we have a decision. Do we make the decision to restrict the reporting to only stores that are not online, right? That is stores that have physical locations, or do we give the report user the option to say, okay, look at online store sales versus non-online store sales, right? There are many things you can do to like keep this visual, in perspective together with every other thing that we're showing in the report. So let's say, okay, as the analyst that we're going to make the decision to restrict this visual to only restrict this report to only reporting to only financial performance of stores that have a physical location or from sales from stores that have a physical location, right? Okay, I'm going to add a filter on page and say, oh, go to where my store name filter on this page is not online. So I take off my online store. And now my report is showing me only stores that are not online. But is it clear on my report that what I'm viewing now is only online stores? No, there is no way to know, right? So I need to add context to the information I'm saying here. I have many ways to do that. I can either go to all of my report titles and put in a subtitle, all of my chart titles and put in a subtitle to say this is showing only physical stores, for example. Or as part of my reporting title, I can say, okay, after I've written financial performance for the month of August, I want to add a subtitle that says, for performance, let's say performance of, I can't expect performance of only physical stores, right? And then we're just going to maybe increase, make it single UI, and make it font size 12, make it a bit clear. Maybe I use a semi-bold so that it's clear. Okay, maybe just bold. Font size 12 and a lighter shade of gray so that it's not drawing. Maybe that's too light. This one's fine. Okay. Let's say we go with this, right? Maybe we need to drop this down a bit, create more space for our title, and then set this back to 8 pixels, right? Come back here and drop it to 8 pixels, so that's 82. And then I'm going to shrink this by 8 pixels as well. Okay, so we made a decision to restrict what it is that we are showing on the report to only online store sales, but we also needed to provide that information in the report such that once someone opens the report, they know that what they are looking at now is not the entire business. It's only, performance from physical stores. Okay, so we can go further and apply, formatting to this, expand the width to show all of the names, and all of those things. So same thing applies here. Let's say I copy some of the formatting from this onto this. It does a few things to it. I can go further to format, the visual to fit what it is I want. Maybe, let's say I turn off my data labels. I bring in my y-axis. What else? Maybe I make my x-axis a bit small, a bit large, make the text a bit more clear and all of those things. So you basically have, the options to do that. I can copy the formatting I have here from my total sales by date and paste it here. Have something similar to that. And then look at my report, my chart title, total sales by date. It's not really making sense. So I can call this maybe daily sales. My title, something that is descriptive, right? Daily sales. And then this one is what total sales by day of week. Maybe that's fine. I can call it total sales by weekday, whatever it is. It's clear that I'm looking at sales and everybody knows that sun, month, till, when stands for days of the week, right? So this is just a very brief, not too crazy reporting process. There's so much you can do. We cannot go into a lot of designing and all of those things, but just want to show you how easy it is to make a report that you've already decided what it is that you want to show, and then you can easily make it in quote aesthetic without having to go through a hell of a design process. And you don't have, it's not you put 300 icons and 400 colors before you have something that looks presentable, right? So that's kind of like the focus of this report. Now, as it relates to using some other design tips or making other design choices, right? There are a lot of things we could have done. For example, we could have decided to create our layouts outside of Power BI and bring it into Power BI, right? That's one option. You could use more shapes, you could do a lot of things, right? But I just wanted to show you something simple, right? Where you can create a report that looks at least a bit pleasing, but you don't have to do a lot of crazy design. I'm just going to see if I can take some questions for now. So at least we've gone about 1 hour in. See what questions we can take before we do anything further. So let me see. Okay. Yeah, so there was a question that can I talk about 2 tips? Okay. I was only used to tips to talk about the next set of things, but let me hold on that for now. Um,
Next
okay,
question here. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Kingsley, you can speak. Kingsley, you can speak. Oh.
Okay, good evening, sir. I was raising up my hand before concerning this performance of only physical stores. I was looking at it. It was only in total sales by store that we filter online stores. So I was thinking that subhead would have go to the visual of total sales by store, not in the entire report. That is what I was trying
okay,
to ask initially.
okay. So I did not put the filter on that one. So if I expand my filter pane, you see I have this filter here. Name is not online store under the filters not on this page. So the filter has been applied to the entire page, not to the visual. If I select the visual, now you see that I have two things. Now I have what filters on this visual and filters on this page. And for the filters on this visual, you see there's nothing applied here. But on the filters on this page, say I have this. So the filter of not online store has been applied to the entire report. Right. So not not just that one.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Um, let's see the next question. Okay. I think I'll continue. No questions again.
Okay, so there is one question in the chat that says, sorry for my earlier question. Okay, not okay.
If
Well,
I
I've
want to
answered that.
show
Okay,
the if I want to show the best five products and at least in the cell. Yeah. Okay. This one
okay.
is saying if I
If I
want to
want
show
to
the
show the
best five
best
products
five
and
products and list five product categories by sales, can I do it in the same chart? Yes, but you would need to write some DAX because by default, you don't have an option. If I click on this vision now, and I go to the filter pane, by default, you don't have an option to say top end and like I don't have an option to say both top and bottom at the same time. I can only choose top or bottom. Well, with that, you can write that to show you both the top and the bottom, right? You can use DAX to do that. You can use DAX to do that. Um, okay, so someone said I didn't use a slicer. Okay, I'm coming to that. All right, so let's proceed. Let's proceed. Now, we've just done, okay, we've just done, well, what do we call it now? We've just done a few things, right? Just created a very basic report. Now, to the question of, I did not use a slicer for the online or physical store. Again, I said it's depending on the decision that we decide, right? We are the ones creating the report for someone. We can either decide that, okay, since the reporting is talking about pain points and growth focus, from the visual where we had the online stores, we saw that the online stores was already surpassing any physical store, right? So we said, okay, maybe we're going to just take off the online stores and look at physical stores. But at the same time, we could say, oh, we want the user to have the option to we want the user to have the option to choose whether they want to look at online stores or physical stores, right? Just so that we are comparing two separate categories. And in that case, I can now decide to put in a slicer, right? Now, if I say, okay, let's create a slicer, come to visuals, I insert the slicer, and I would just like my slicer to be a column that says online or physical, right? Now, in my store table, let me go to my store table. In my store table, do I have that column? If I don't have that column, let's see, I have store key, store code, country, state, name, square meters, open date, close date, status. Now, in name column is where I have the online store, right? So if I search for online, that's where I have the online store. So which means I need a column that tells me whether this store is online or not. So again, as whatever decision it is that I'm going to take regarding the report, I may have to make changes to my model, right? I may have to make changes to my data. That's why I always said it's iterative, it's not sequential. So now it's okay. Let's say I want to have a slicer that just says physical or online. I'm going to need to have a column here. Maybe I'm going to create a calculated column, right? Let's just do something very simple just to show as an example and say, okay, this column is what? Store type. And it's just going to be if my name. So again, we're not supposed to be writing that, but that's not but just to show you. So if the store name is equal to online store, then show online, otherwise show physical. Or we can say, okay, show online store, otherwise show physical store. Yeah, and then we have that column here that has online store or physical store. We can add that column as our slicer. It's called store type. And then we can make it a drop down. So slicer settings, drop down, and then we can select physical store. Now, because I have a filter on my page where I've restricted to not this, so I can say, okay, since I want to now use a slicer, right? I'm going to go to my filter pane and I'm going to clear this one that I've applied here. Delete this, come here. And then now what I'm going to look at will be driven by here. So I can switch now between online store, physical store, right? Online store, physical store. That's completely fine. You get whatever decision you're going to take is going to what you're going to do is going to be dependent on what it is, what decision it is that you want to take regarding how you want to go about the report, which you get. So it's not my choice not to want to use a slicer, right? By just deciding as we are creating the report. Okay, so we have a basic working example. Let's go back to our wireframe to see what are some things that we said we're going to do that we have not done. Okay. So we said, okay, we showed sales by profits, by products, and we want to be able to add further information or further context, right, to this. So while our visual is showing sales, we want to also give the user the opportunity to show profits and maybe see costs and see profit margin, for example, right? Now, you might be tempted in that situation to say, oh, let me just add my what's it called, bring in my profits into there, bring in my cost into there. But you see that at some point it even becomes difficult to follow through on one metric. Like now, if I say, okay, out of the top 5 sales that we have put here, which one is the one that has the highest cost? It's difficult to show it, right? So that's where something like tooltips or a drill through page comes into hands. I say, okay, I'm going to show you the total sales, right, for the top 5 and product categories, but I'll give you the option to see what profit they generated and all of those. So I have my visual selected. I come to tooltips, and then I can bring in a tooltip for my profit. Right, I drag in my profit measure into my tooltip. I drag in maybe my cost measure into my tooltip, and I drag in my profit margin. And so Once I have that set, once I've done that and I go to my report, I see that once I hover over a bar, I can see what total sales is 283,000, the profit is 159, the cost is 123, and the profit margin was 56%. You can do that, right, to provide more context to what it is that we are looking at. If we also look at our wireframe, we talked about, giving them the opportunity to say, okay, we want to look at sales or profits by the customer location, but when we see a very interesting pattern, we want to give them the opportunity to now say, oh, what's the demography of those guys in this place? There are two ways we can do that, right? For example, so now we've shown total sales by country, and we've seen, oh, United States seems to be where it's selling the most, right? I wonder what the demography of the people in the United States are. One option is to say, okay, do we create another separate page, right? To say, oh, on that separate page, we would now say, okay, select the country from that first page you're coming from. And then on this page, we will show you what the demography of that page is. That's one option. Do you get? Or we can give them the opportunity to drill down and say, okay, maybe for the kind of product that we are selling, it tends to be skewed towards particular age groups or particular genders. I can still keep it on this page and say, okay, on my y-axis now, I'm showing just country, right? Why don't I just put in the gender, right, as a drill down category? You get, and then maybe I also put in the age as another drill down category. So I can move from country to gender and then to age, right? Now, going over to the other point of, how the report is going to be used. Because this is a report that is going to be used every month, so it's going to log in at the end of the month and then see what the report is. It means that there's going to be a chance that it can interact with the report. That is why you can make a decision to say, I'm going to put a tooltip, for example. If you're going to create a report that they're not going to have the opportunity to interact, a tooltip is a useless feature in that case. You get, if I'm creating a report that is just going to be, oh, I'm just going to glance on it in the morning, glance away. I'm not going to, I'm just going to get a PDF copy. Adding a tooltip, there's no point. But in our case now, we're assuming that, oh, it's going to have the opportunity to interact with the report. We've added a tooltip. We can also configure this page, to give the opportunity to drill down, say, if it says, oh, this country is looking interesting, what's the demography, right? If I select the visual, at the top here, we have this icon that says, click to turn on drill down. I click on it. Now, what have I done? What I've done is with this drill down here, once I select United States, it drills down to the category which I have, which I have set up, which is to look at gender. And now, because I've drilled down to United States, to the next level in my hierarchy that I've set is what gender. So now I'm looking at the breakdown of sales by customers that came by customers that purchased in the United States. I'm looking at that breakdown by gender. My entire report now is filtered down to what's it called? United States. You get interactivity, building actionable and interactive report, right? We're now looking at the interactivity. The interactivity that you're going to choose to design, will be part of the things that should contribute to that user experience or that user story or that user journey that you are designing for your consumer. So this is one user journey that we have seen that, oh, if someone is looking at customer location, they might be interested in demographics. So let's give them the option to what? To drill down to certain demographics. So now we've drilled down to United States and we are looking at male and female distribution. And already I can see, oh, in the United States, we have 2001, about 333K, 383K in sales. This is the cost and this is the margin, right? I can say, oh, there seems to not be so much of a split in gender. Let's see, what the gender is. So I can hover up over the male and still drill down again. And now I'm now looking at it by age group or by age in this case. So age may not have been an appropriate one. Maybe we'll have created an age group or an age bucket that we're going to use in this we have used in this visual, but you see the experience that you've created for your report user now. You've given them the option to be curious, and then giving them the option to answer that curiosity, with interactivity in your report. So already you say, oh, the age that had most sales is what? Those are 66, 7, 30, 50, and all of those things. So if we had age groups, maybe it would have been a bit more interesting. That would have given us insight into the distribution. So we're just going to drill up back, and then also drill up back again. And so you have the option to look at it. And then even if it's for something as small as Italy, right? Say, oh, Italy has a very, very little sales. Why is that? I go to Italy, I can drill down Italy and look at that, that breakdown. That's one option to give them that experience of, going from specific to details, right? So you create a portal, like portal. You create a portal, right? So this is high level information. And as you get curious, you have the opportunity to look at details. Okay, so that's one. That's another way. Another thing also is, by default in Power BI, we have cross highlighting, right? That is, if I select one visual, every other thing visual, all the other visuals in the report gets filtered based on that selection. But you could create reports that cross highlighting may not be effective. For example, if as I've selected this now, I can see that, oh, this United States sales seems to be the top what's it called, the top sales, and then now it's now difficult to see between Germany, United Kingdom, and Australia which one is the next what's it called, which one is the next is the next one in terms of the top sales. You can configure the interaction, or maybe you have a metric, right, that is a benchmark, that you want that benchmark to only be filtered by certain visuals or by certain columns, but you don't want it to be filtered by certain columns. You can control the interaction in your report. So an example now, so I don't want it to just highlight these ranges. I want it to filter the visual, right, and then let me just be looking at the sales by country for whatever product category I've selected. That's easy to do. Select your product, your visual, come over to, where's it called now? Format. Let me expand this now. Yeah. So select your visual, come over to format, right? So if I click on edit interactions, I have the option to disable the interactions of my selected visual with my other visuals, right? So I have my product category by sales selected. I can say, okay, for my sales by country, I want you to have three options here. The first one here, this is it. Yeah, so I have three options here. The first one, if I hover on, is what? Filter. This one is what? Highlights, and this one is what? None. If I select none, that visual never gets filtered. If I select highlights, that's the default that we have there. And if I select filter, it filters it down. So by clicking on any product category here, I see, what the breakdown of sales for that product category is by countries. That's how this visual is going to interact with this visual. I can also do it, to customize how it interacts with this visual, how it interacts with other visuals, right? That's very much, what's it called? Very much possible. So once you are okay with the interaction you've set up, you just come back here to edit interactions and you turn it off to take off those icons. So that's how you can configure your editing interactions, use drill downs and tooltips to provide additional context to your data without overwhelming the report or the report consumer. Other options that you have when it comes to adding context to your data or explaining things in a very clear way is to use what we call to use subtitles, right? So you can use subtitles. So here that we've said, oh, top 5 product categories by sales, we could actually just say, okay, we want to keep the top. I'm going to select the visual. Go to format, go to general, go to title, and then after title, I have subtitle. So I can turn on my subtitle, right? And say, okay, I want my title now to be what? Total sales by product categories. And then in my subtitle, I want to now explain that this is what top 5 categories by sales, right? That's one way you get, or maybe it's maybe you restricted your visual to only show. You can put it in your subtitle to say, okay, oh, I'm only showing products that were produced in this period, or something like that. So you can take advantage of subtitles in adding context to your visuals, right? Adding context to your visual. What other things can we do when it comes to reporting? So yeah, we could also add icons, right? We could add icons to our visuals. Let's just look at adding icons. Now I gave us, which I'm going to share the slide, but last session we looked at a few websites where you can get icons. Let me just show you one or two things when it comes to getting icons. That's having consistent icons, right? Not just using any kind of icons. So I'm going to open up my browser now. And okay, so now I'm going to go to one of those websites, which is Remix Icon. All right. So Remix Icon is a free website where you can get some free icons. So let's say we want to bring in some icons for let's say profit, right? So we can try and look for things that relate to profit and say, okay, let's say profit. Okay, I don't get anything for profit. Let's say something like what can we use to represent profits? Money, right? We don't have money. Say currency. No. Okay. So sometimes you may get what you want. Sometimes you may not get what you want, right? Let me see if I can find something. Let's go to business or maybe sales or something, right? So can we find something that we can use to show money? Okay, maybe this one can provide us with one. That's cool. We go to another website. Thank God for those people that we appreciate everyone that provides free content on the internet, right? So another one is the Noun Project. Now the Noun Project website also has free icons, right? And you have the opportunity to support them if you like what it is they're doing. So let's go to the icons, right? And let's say, so I'm going to search, let's say sales. And if search sales, you can find icons that relate to sales, to money. You look for something that is appropriate, not too, and what's it called? Not too detailed. Now, when I say detailed, like doesn't have a lot of element to it, right? That is, even if it's shrink to a very small thing, you get what the idea of that icon is, right? Now, so you can look for something appropriate on the website, right? Let me see if I can find sales. Okay, let's say money. I don't want to spend time on this, but just to show you how you can bring in icons. Okay, let's use this one or this one. Let's use this one for sales, right? So I'm gonna pick the icon, get this icon. I just want the basic download, continue. Now I'll give you a cheat. Let's call it a cheat. If you can download SVGs rather than PNGs. The reason why it's good to download SVGs because even if you don't have any design skill, you can change the colors of your SVGs to fit your presentation theme, right? And stuff like that. So let's say I download an SVG. So it has downloaded my SVG icon. I'm going to first bring it into PowerPoint so we see what that SVG is. So this is it here. We're going to bring it into PowerPoint, right? Now, so this is the icon, Right, this is the icon. Now, this is how I go about, editing my icons before I use it in report. Now, let me just copy to a new page. So we have no distractions. Okay, so once I have an icon here, what you can do, if I right click on the icon, I can go to group and ungroup it. And so it ungroups it to its different components, right? So that I can just take that off and zoom in a bit. We always have some what's it called, promotional information, so you can do that. And then for the rest of the elements, I'm just going to select everything, right click, group it back. And now that I've grouped it, I can go to shape, go to shape fill, and fill it with my own color to fit the theme of my report. So I can put my orange. If I duplicate it, I can create another icon, maybe using red. If I duplicate it, I can create another icon using blue. Right. So when you use SVGs, you can customize it to your own taste. So let's say I'm going to use this one for our report and just shrink it to about this, right? Then you right click, then you save it as a picture, right? Let's just save it on our desktop, call this money icon, save. And once you have that image done, you just go into Power BI and let's say come here on our card visual, go to the formatting, go to cards, I think. Was it layout now? So there's an option to add. Let me find the option. I think go to cards, you go to, yeah. So you go to cards, then select which of the series you want to add the icons to. Say, let's say we just want to add it to the profit, or let's say sales, one add it to sales. So we go to image, turn on image, expand, and then we browse for our image. And so I go to my desktop, money icon, open, I get my image added in there. Then I can now reduce the size and say, oh, maybe make it size 10. That's too small. Maybe 25. Maybe that's too small. Say 35. Okay, that's looking better. Maybe 40 is fine. Okay, maybe 40 is fine. Then you decide on the position. Do you want it on the left? Do you want it at the top or at the bottom? So I think left is fine. Maybe wide is on the left and make it like 60 pixels. Maybe that's too small, too large. You should just like try to find, the perfect sizing, and then maybe you add more icons to the other ones. And then maybe because of your icons now, you need to reduce the size of your text, your callout values, so you come at callouts values. Maybe I don't want 35 again, 30, so everything fits nicely, right? So you have the option to bring in icons. What I really wanted to show with the icons is, how you can customize it to your taste and also use appropriate icons, not just anyhow icons, right? Most times, what most people used to do is, okay, you go to, I think it's flat icon, and if I go to flat icon, let me show you something. If I go to flat icon and I search for sales, I go search for sales, and then it brings some icons, right? Now, what you don't want to do is, okay, once this loads up. So what you don't want to do is to use one icon that is looking like this style, use another icon that is this style, use another icon that is this style, use another icon that is this style. No, you want to keep the style of your icon consistent. If you're going to be using something colorful, use something colorful or true. If you're going to be using something that is an outline, just black shade, use that all true, right? And how you can edit it without having too many graphic design skills is what? Try to get the SVG of the file, bring it into PowerPoint, and then once you bring it into PowerPoint, you can change, the color and the outline and everything. Okay, I think that's it around design elements. So we've talked about interactivity, we've talked about, trying to help the user have the like a user story while interacting with your report. We've talked about how you can bring in icons into the report. We've talked about being intentional about what each visual means, right? And making your report as clear as possible when someone looks at it. So that's just a few things. There is a lot that we could go through in creating the report, but I hope in the last, hour and a half that we spent together, we've been able to pick one or two. I'm just going to, have another 15 minutes of, Q&A for us to wrap up
Yeah.
today's session.
Okay, the questions are coming in. Person say what will be the best approach in developing a report that is very detailed oriented without overwhelming the report with text or visual. Okay, I think you can go through the Q&A.
Okay. So what will be the best approach in developing? So this Chiamaka was asking, what will be the best approach in developing a report that is very detail oriented without overwhelming the report with text or visuals if interactivity isn't an option. Now, if interactivity isn't an option
Help me with my phone.
and you want to create a report, maybe a dashboard, right? It means that you would have to be as descriptive as possible for all of your visuals. And then you have to be strategic about what question or set of questions each page should be designed to answer, right? So you, like in the example now where we had where we were trying to use drill through and drill down to provide more context into what's it called, into the demography. If we didn't have the options for interactivity, maybe we would have added an explainer text right to the bottom of the visual to say, okay, United States had the highest this and that, and then this is because the demography of this is this, demography of that is that, and then you have a text that's explaining what it is that you could have given the user the report to find out by interacting with your report, with your dashboard. Another option could be, okay, if it's not going to be an interactive report and it's just something that they just want to see, maybe you don't need to create a dashboard at all, right? Maybe you don't need to create a dashboard at all. Maybe you're just going to write up a report. But if you're going to create a dashboard and then you're going to have the option to interact with it, then you want to be as clear as possible. And then you want to get very, very specific with the questions or the business focus of that report so that you know that you are designing to answer a set of questions. And once the set of questions have been answered by the visuals in your reports, if a new set of questions that fits together need to be answered, that is another page of a report, right? So that's one way, that's an approach, maybe not the best, but that's an approach to think about it. Okay, she also has another question which says, are there limits to the number of visuals that can be included in the report? E.g., for a single page report, what would be the recommended number of visuals? Now, I don't know if there's a recommended number of visuals, but don't put too much visuals. I think once you start designing the reports, you know when you're already putting too much, when things are becoming overwhelming. I know some people will say, oh, don't have more than 6 to 8 visuals on the report, which can help, right, as a guideline. But I would just say have enough visuals to answer a set of business questions. That would be my own answer to that question. Have enough visuals that answer a set of business questions. 5 to 6 visuals might be enough. Like on this page now, how many visuals we have? We have about 6, right? 5 charts and then the KPI card. That might be enough, but there are sometimes you may even need less, or there are sometimes you may need slightly more. But if you're going to have X amount of visuals, be sure that each visual is contributing in a significant way, right, to the focus of your report. I hope that answers your 2 questions. Any other question? Okay. Mobile, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So, any other questions we need to take on today? I know there's a lot we would have liked to cover today, but there is only so much we can build, in 2 hours, right?
Actually, we've covered a lot and we've done a lot. Like we've done a lot beyond what I was even expecting, because we covered drill down, we covered drill through, we covered filter, we covered tooltips too. So only what I think I will not cover is beyond of this scope is bookmarks and stuff. So we don't
Yeah,
have time for that.
nothing.
We don't have time for
Yes.
that.
There's only so much. Okay, I think someone was raising up their hands. So
I couldn't see it again. I saw it briefly, but I couldn't find it again.
okay.
So I think okay. Actually, I want to call it a day for me already. So let's take this question before I move on. So Oluwatomi, you can speak, please.
Good evening. Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yeah.
Yes.
Please, I wanted him to do an example on inserting some text to explain the charts. Like maybe one of the charts that we have, maybe you could just insert a text and kind of explaining it so that we could see the best practices around that.
Okay. But
Thank you.
there are all right. There are many ways you can do it, right? Let me see what I can show. And there's no when we say that, I will not say there's a best practice way, right? There are a lot of ways you can do it. Now we could use this subtitle, right, as where we want to put the explainer text. So if let's say the explainer text is in this visual, I come here, I come to title, subtitle, I turn on the subtitle, and then I'm not going to craft any text here, but I'm just going to duplicate it very long just to show you how much you can put here. Then I'll turn on the text wrap, right? So you see that we can put a lot here, maybe make the font size small, and then we can put a lot of information. So this is one way where you can have that external text, although it has a limit, right? See, we've reached the limit here already. This is one way you can add the external text. Another one is to say, okay, maybe we're just going to shrink this. I'm going to bring in a text box. Set the text box. The text box. Do this with a text box. Let's see. And then in our text box, we have total sales by country. Then we try to format it as our protocol now, as our header. Then I think I use 14, yes, 14. And then beneath that, do I have this? So here I say is font size 11. Here I now turn off my title. Maybe I drop it down a bit. See, okay. And then I have my explainer text, and that can be as much as I want it to be. Even though this is already too much, but you get the gist, right? And then so I just keep it as this, just have that there, do this, align everything there, and then okay, this is kind of like my explainer text. I can make it look maybe a little bit light so that it's not drawing up so much attention. Everything now looks like just one visual. So this is another way you can use to add the explainer information, or you use the subtitle. Alternatively, you could even take up everything here and say, okay, we are going to keep this the way it was. Turn on the titles back, drop this here, and then nope, that's not what I want to do. Then okay, we're going to put our explainer text here. Right. In this case, we won't need this one here, and then we just keep it as this. So you see the visual, you see this, and then you see a text explaining what you're seeing in the visual at the bottom. That's one way, right? So that's some of the ways you can add explainer text. Use the subtitles, you use text boxes, and design it to kind of fit the view of your report. Don't know who's watching the movie, but we can hear the movie you're watching. So okay, so we have one more question from Damilola, which says, is there anything like caption in Power BI like it is on Tableau? Okay, so I'm not very familiar with Tableau, so I don't know what caption is in Tableau, right? So I may not be able to answer that question.
Maybe you can tell us what caption is. Maybe we can, if we can have idea of what it is in Power BI. So Damilola, can you just tell us what caption is? Because caption in normal layman here is something about you're talking about text to visual.
And there are many ways you can add text to.
So
caption in Tableau gives you overall analysis of the chart.
Okay. Something like Q&A or smart what's it called?
So
smart narrative.
let me just show you. So we do have something like that in Power BI.
In Power BI, yeah.
Which is the
Q&A.
smart narrative.
Yes,
right. I think the smart narrative is closer to what it's going for. So if I go to the insert tab here, we have the smart narrative. So if I click on the smart narrative, it tries to use AI to generate a narrative around, what it is that you have in your visual, right? So we have this now. So, it has looked at what I have in my visual and tried to create a narrative. Total sales trended up, resulting in a 35.09% increase between Thursday days and Saturday days. The total sales started trending from days, rising by days. It jumped from days to days during JC, giving us information based on the visuals that we have put in. Yeah, so this is what we have in. Yeah, so this is what we have in Power BI. Hope it's
answer your question. Yeah, I think that's enough to answer his question. Hi, Damilola. Okay, thank you. So I think you call it how do we create a data hierarchy? Yeah, what you just need to do is to convert your data type from where it's coming from your Power Query to date data type. So it will create Power BI will automatically create the hierarchy for you. So that's your answer, Kingsley. So I think thank you, Bolaji, for today, and it's been an insightful and wonderful session, and as in, it's been a good. So we please let's appreciate Bolaji. Let's appreciate him on his handle on social media. He really did a lot. So I want us to
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
him
you.
very well, and we call it a night for me. And yeah,